Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day, and I totally am. Happy Yule, winter solstice for those of us in the northern hemisphere. Happy Litha, happy midsummer if you are in the southern hemisphere and happen to be watching this video today. Today I want to do a video that's applicable for the day. And this video is going to be the incense recipe and the correspondences for Yule. So let's talk about that, shall we? So December 21st is Yule if you're in the northern hemisphere, and this is it's a day that I know my coven looks forward to every year. We actually had our ritual over the weekend, so that was interesting in these COVID times where we're doing everything virtual. But we made it through, and it's not the same as being in person, but at least we were together in some capacity. And that's kind of the way that I've decided that I've got to look at stuff. So let's kind of jump into the correspondences, the symbols, and things like that that are applicable for this wonderful Sabbath. So the ritual theme of Yule has to do with the fact that the light returns to the world. The Sun King is born on Yule, and that is what makes the light return. And so the goddess gives birth to him, and she is in her mother aspect now. And so those types of themes are what are applicable to this kind of a ritual: the returning of light, newness of new birth, beginnings, things of that nature. Okay, so the magic that would be really good to work this time of year has to do with those things: rebirth, quiet introspection, new year. Some folks consider Yule the beginning of the year. Some look at Samhain as the beginning of the year. Hope, setting intentions, and celebration of light. Those are your magical intentions that kind of coincide with this time of year. So let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is stones, and stones that are associated with Yule. So we're looking at clear quartz, we're looking at jet, we're looking at rubies and diamonds, all the expensive ones, right? Garnets, alexandrite, kunzite, citrine, green tourmaline, blue topaz, and pearls. I can just see like a crown made with all of those stones, right? It would be really beautiful, that's for sure. So the colors that are associated with Yule would be the colors that we're used to associating with the Christmas time, with this holiday time. We're looking at reds, we're looking at greens, we're looking at white, silver, and gold. Kind of a gimme there, right? Now, symbols that are associated with Yule would be our mistletoe, stand under the mistletoe and get kissed. That's always fun. Wreaths. Again, some of these symbols that we've known that are associated with the holiday time from the time that we were kids, right? So holly, stags are associated. Mice are associated with Yule. Deer, horses, and bears are associated with Yule. So if you're planning a feast for your Yuletide celebration. Some foods that you might want to look at would be nuts, apples, and pears. Some of those things that, you know, we collect throughout the year or that are late harvests that that winter over very nicely in our root cellars. Caraway cakes. Can't say that I've ever had a caraway cake, but I'm kind of interested in what that would taste like. They're soaked in cider. Caraway cakes soaked in cider. I need to finish reading the phrase. I do like some cider. Pork would be a good main dish for this season. Oranges. Hibiscus or ginger teas. Roasted turkey. Fruit cake. That was kind of a gimme, right? Fruit cake. Dried fruit, again, something that you would put into storage for the winter. Cookies, eggnog, and mulled cider. So those are some things that you can think about in terms of planning your ritual feast. Now, let's talk about the deities that are associated with Yule. And we'll start with the goddesses. So for the goddesses, we're looking at Freya. We're looking at Skadhu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Skadhu. My personal favorite, Briad, is associated with Yule. So is Isis. So is Demeter. So is Gaia and Diana. And also the Great Mother. They're all kind of like mother aspects in some capacity. So yeah, that whole the birthing the god type thing, right? So leading into the gods then, a lot of them are going to be those rebirth gods that are associated with the Jesus Christ mythos. But then you'll also have some others like Odin Father. Yule is so special to me because like my gods are associated with this particular Sabbath. Uller, Uller. Apollo, he's a sun god, so that kind of makes sense. So is Ra. Lu, the Oak King, the Horned One, the Green Man, and then of course any of the divine childs, as I had already mentioned, like Mabon is a divine child. So any of those types of archetypes. Now, as far as incense goes, if you want to go with a pre-made incense, bayberry might be something that you look at, pine, spruce, any kind of spice, so like a cinnamon or something like that, cloves, cedar, and cinnamon. Cinnamon was listed later. So if you wanted a pre-made, you would look at something like that. Now let's talk about the recipe that I have that we've made for the coven. So this one is pretty simple. It's only 4 ingredients. So so the recipe comes in parts. And so I think I've talked about this before, but just to kind of reiterate, a part would be whatever measurement that you want to use. If you want to use a pinch, then a pinch is a part. If you want to make a bigger batch, so to speak, then maybe you want to look at 1/8 of a cup or something. I have an antique silver spoon that I usually use for magical purposes, things like this. And so that's probably it's probably close to a tablespoon, I would guess. I haven't actually like done a measurement comparison, but I'd say it's bigger than a teaspoon, so it's more along a tablespoon. So I'm going to talk about these ingredients in parts, okay? So you want 2 parts frankincense, all right? Then you also want 2 parts pine needles or pine resin. Pine needles would probably be the cleanest thing if you wanted to do a loose incense. If you wanted to deal with a resin, then it would probably make it so that you could form it into some kind of shape and then burn that shape after it was hardened, okay? I would also say too that frankincense generally comes in the resin. Well, you know what? I need to kind of, you know what? I kind of jumped and assumed that pine resin would be liquid. But like frankincense, as I was starting to say, frankincense is generally sold in like little nuggets of resin. So maybe that's what the pine resin would come as well. I don't know that I've ever seen pine resin for sale. So I guess if you maybe collected some pine resin from trees in your area, you would get that liquid form that you could then probably do some kind of a shape that you would harden. Okay, so you could do that. I would suggest that if you were looking at frankincense in its resin form, that you would look at powdering it in some way, whether that be in a mortar and pestle, whether that you be like using a coffee grinder or some other thing like a food processor or something like that. I think it would be easier for something like this if you used a powdered form. And it is possible to find powdered frankincense. You might need to look a little harder for it, okay? Hopefully I got all that explained and like backtracked well. Next, you'll need 1 part cedar. And again, this is something that you want to like get it as small as possible. So if, you know, again, chop that up, something along those lines. And then 1 part juniper berries. So you just mix all of those things up into a container. And then I do have an incantation. I do not share words of power like that in video format, but I will either put the words in the description box or I will put the incense recipe on my blog and there will be a link. I have a little confession to make. WordPress which is what hosts my blog, they have made some upgrades and it's kind of harder to use and I haven't had an opportunity to play around with it. That is where I would prefer to put these recipes, but it might just be easier for me to put them in the description box. We'll kind of see how it goes when I go to post this video. So you would use that incantation to empower that incense and then you're ready to go. So that's it for the incense. Very simple one for this particular Sabbath. So that is it for this video. If I missed something that is kind of like familiar for you in the correspondences, or if you've got an alternate incense recipe, I'm totally open to hearing about that and seeing what you've got available. So please put a comment. If you've done any of that. Wow, I feel like I'm a little loopy today. I'm sorry about that. So if you learned something from this video or enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up despite my twisted tongue. I don't know where that's coming from today. Please look in the description box for links for different social medias like Facebook and Instagram, things like that. And if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you come back here to the channel and check out what's new and what's happening and what's going on. I think that's gonna be it. I'm gonna stop myself before I get my tongue in any more trouble, okay? So thank you for taking the time to walk the path for a little while with me, and until next time, blessed be.